The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. My name is Maureen Hughes, and I am the Director of Training and Resource Development at the Literacy Coalition of New Brunswick. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our Literacy and Essential Skills in the Workplace webinar series. Today we present Build an Employee, Build Your Business. Our presenter is Warren C. Maddox from the Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick. Before I introduce Warren, though, I'd like to draw your attention to the dashboard on the right side of your screen. You will see a question box in which you can type in any questions during the webinar. Warren will respond to questions throughout the webinar. If your question is of a technical nature, I will respond as quickly as possible. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Warren C. Maddox. Warren is the Skills Development Coordinator for the Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick and has been involved in the not-for-profit sector for over 20 years. Starting out in the arts, he used his education and experience to move into senior management roles in some of the best NGOs in the country. He has specialized in communications, revenue development, and partnerships with many organizations and municipal governments. Welcome, Warren.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time of your day to listen to my presentation. I hope that that you learned something and we're able to sort of help you gain some essential skills tools that will help you to engage employers. And if you're an employer, I hope that over the course of the next little while that we will pique your interest in exploring essential skills a little further. The title of my presentation today is Build an Employee, Build a Business. And before I get into it, I just want to check to make sure everybody's hearing me okay. If not, please type your question and we'll deal with any technical issues. For a long time, TIMB has been involved in dealing with training of employees, and it deals with everything from frontline employees to supervisor training to superhost training. A lot of what we do is based on training because the service industry and working with others is incredibly important in the tourism industry. With TIMB, we became involved in a research project about 24 months, maybe 30 months ago now. And the research project is called Upskills. And what it was a project that was based out of the Office of Literacy and Essential Skills with Service Canada. And they were contacted by my oral employer, which is an organization called the Social Research Demonstration Corporation in Ottawa, to conduct a study into essential skills training in the hotel sector. The basis behind the research project was to answer a relatively simple question, which is proving to be a very complex answer. But the question was, does essential skills training have a positive, negative, or neutral effect on return on investment for a hotel? To accomplish this, we had to bring in a number of other partners to sort of get the project up and running. The project is a pan-Canadian research project from Newfoundland to British Columbia. Enrolled in the project are Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, the Nova Scotia government, TIMB in New Brunswick, the Ontario Tourism Education Council in Ontario, Manitoba's involved, Saskatchewan's involved, and British Columbia's involved. Along with that is the Canadian Tourism Human Resource Council, who provides us with some really good material to help build our curriculum and also helps us do assessments. The NGOs from across the country, or the HROs from across the country, Douglas College in BC, Skill Plan in BC, who helped develop and build curriculum, Bow Valley College in Alberta, who do the TAOS testing for us. So the overall research project is to look at over 100 hotels across Canada to engage somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 employees in one of four occupation groups, either a front desk agent, a housekeeping room attendant, a line cook, or a server in either banquet or in one of the outlets. And where we went with the program was to develop a series of surveys and assessments that would give us a baseline as to where these employees were across the country. With this project in New Brunswick, we had 9 hotels. 8 of them are still in, over 100 employees that we're creating surveys and assessments for. And we've been discovering some really interesting elements through this research project. We have created a control group and a program group, so all employees will eventually get essential skills training, some sooner, the program group, and some later, the control group. What that does is allow us to create a spectrum that allows us to compare apples with apples. And what we're primarily looking for is through a 15-hour training program, and the training program we built on national occupation standards for each of the 4 occupation groups, and then embedded essential skills training into that. So over the course of a 15-hour training, we provide them with some basis in terms of what their occupation is, and then a lot in terms of what the essential skills training is. We've been discovering some unique things in this part of the country. Newfoundland and Labrador and New Brunswick, the numeracy issue has skewed really quite high. So we're not running into numeracy issues on the whole. Literacy issues really don't seem to be that much of a problem with the hotel industry. But we're in a unique situation where some of these people have sort of already been pre-screened in terms of their employees working for a hotel. I know that some of those numbers differ quite radically when you get out into the general population. Where we've been finding some challenges and areas that we need to address and work on is document use and understanding. So the silver lining in that cloud was numeracy, the dark tones in the cloud was document use and understanding. We've also been working on oral communication and working with others. Those 3 of these essential skills are sort of the ones that, certainly for the accommodation sector, are the ones that have required a lot more attention and focus. We'd also like to, or I'd like to recognize that the West Division from Post-Secondary Education Training and Labor stepped up to the plate quite early on to allow us to provide funding for the control group at the end of the research, which is great. So it allows us to go out and deliver funding or deliver training to all the employees straight across the board. The curriculum development took a little longer than we had anticipated, just because we were going back and forth and trying to get the right mix and how to do it. Ultimately, what we came out with was taking the national occupation standards from the Canadian Tourism Human Resource Council and then turning those into curriculum and then embedding the essential skills within that curriculum. And it's worked really quite wonderfully for us. In terms of training, we've done a number of different programs, everything from 2 90-minute classes a week to what turned out to be the preferred method, and it was one that we were a little skeptical about to begin with, but it's turned out since then to be really kind of the best model, which is that we're delivering a 15-hour training session over a course of 2 days. It allows the hotels to break off the employees that are in the program so that they don't have their work to do plus training. They're able to focus solely on the training program, and it's proved to be really quite beneficial. Some of the things that we've discovered, that there are some fundamental essential skills gaps in the accommodation sector, and I think that probably can translate out into other sectors as well. As I mentioned earlier, numeracy is skewing high, document use and understanding is sort of grim. Essential skills gaps are also present in those who have college or university education, and it goes right on down. We found that document use and understanding seems to be relatively low, irrespective of where the last stage of school was. We've had some people that have quit during sort of the high school years. We have university graduates, and the document use and understanding is sort of universally poor between all groups. There's an emerging data set to indicate that essential skills training is having a positive impact. By this point in the process and in the research project, we've delivered training to 3 hotels and gone back and started doing the surveys and assessments again to see if there has been movement, and the indicators are showing that there are some movements. In some of the surveys that we've done, certainly with the employees and especially with the managers, it appears that we're having the greatest impact in dealing with oral communications and working with others, which is incredibly important in the hotel industry, and I really, to break it out into any industry, being able to communicate properly and politely and know the different forms of communication. Also working well with others creates a better team, increases productivity, and has an overall positive result for any business. One of the other things that we found really quite interesting as well was when given the opportunity to do more training after the Essential Skills Project, so far over 50% of the employees are expressing interest in signing up for other programs, such as the E-Merit program, which is one of the brand name programs that IMB offers that covers about 47 or 48 different occupations within the tourism sector. Document use and understanding scores are improving, which pleases us to no end. As everybody's aware in today's society, if you can't use and understand a document, you have an incredible handicap on your hands. Everything from using a website to understanding internal documents within an organization to health forms to government forms to you name it. You literally can't get through a day without running into a dozen or more documents that need to be understood and filled in properly. So where are we? The organization needs analysis have been done on 9 hotels. Employee engagements have been completed on 7 hotels with 1 to go. Baseline employee surveys have been done on 100 employees at 7 hotels with 1 hotel and about 20 employees to go. Actually, that's now done. TAS assessments have been done on 100 employees. Occupation-based assessments have been done at all hotels at this point. And what that means is that we follow a guideline from the Canadian Tourism Human Resource Council and go in and do a job shadowing exercise that gives us an idea of where that employee is, how they're interacting with their fellow employees, how they're interacting with guests, their knowledge of their occupation as it exists. It certainly is great to have a look and see how health and safety issues might come into play. Training is underway currently at a number of the hotels, and we're sort of plugging ahead with we'll have the last 2 hotels cleaned up hopefully by mid-January of this year. So it's full speed ahead with this project, and we're also creating a pilot project for hotels in the St. John market, which is based on the Upskill project. And again, this is a collaboration and a partnership with WES. And what we hope to do is we've taken a modified approach to the Upskill curriculum, expanded it into a 30-hour program, and are delivering it to employees for the hotel sector in St. John. It promises to be a very good program, and we're quite excited about that. So what's next on our agenda? More training, always training. Developing the working base for a pilot project. This was tried and we ran into some firm engagement challenges. We were close to a critical mass at this point, enable us to move ahead with the project. And really what this is when you're going in and talking to employers and trying to tell them about essential skills of why it's important and why it has will and potentially can have a huge impact on their hotel and the bottom line, it's a challenge. They have a lot of pressures that are facing them, budgetary challenges, time challenges, scheduling challenges, and you have to be patient and you have to be persistent and you have to, answer a lot of questions, and ultimately you have to be sort of in a standby mode until the time is right for them. In a past life as a fundraiser, I was taught that no is rarely ever a no. It's no, the time isn't right, or no, the budget doesn't allow it right now, or no, for some other reason. As a person that's going in and talking to hotels and selling essential skills projects and the essential skills concept, you have to be aware that no doesn't always mean no. It just means no, not right now. And you have to have the patience and the persistence to hang in there and keep pushing away. We'll continue to develop the program as funding opportunities can be secured, expand the program into a bilingual program, we hope, and to move on to a province-wide basis. The next real sector, we sort of have 2 phases lined out for us at this point. The first one is to make it into a bilingual program, and then the second one will be to tailor it more to the food and beverage sector. Again, a sector that has incredible needs in terms of public service, and essential skills go an enormously long way toward delivering the proper service experience with a hotel or a restaurant or whatever operation you have. I like this cartoon. And I'll give everybody a chance to sort of read it, and I think understands and understates why training is so important and why it's up to us to make sure that we go in, and it also underlines the importance behind the Upskill project, which will give us a hard set of data to be able to go back into CEOs and COOs and CFOs when budget time comes and says, look, I have the hard data that says essential skills training does pay. And the way things are looking at this point, it does. A lot of what we hear from time to time at IMD is what happens if I train them and they leave. Our response generally is what happens if you don't train them and they stay. You end up in a situation where you get into retention issues, you get into performance issues, and certainly in any kind of business where service or customer service is important, the training is fundamental. There's a huge difference between down-home, country feel and friendliness and good service. They aren't exclusive to one another. That you do at times have to understand that there is good service and then there's friendliness, and good service isn't always a matter of being super friendly, although friendliness is part of good service. One of the other things that we hear a lot about, and sometimes has a tendency to sort of stick in our craw a bit, which is I can't find any good employees. One of our contentions is this, which is quite likely and perhaps the really good employees you're looking for are already there, and you just need to develop them a bit. I've run into this a number of times over the years where you hear about skilled labor shortages and you hear about employers saying, I just can't find the right people. But have you really looked? Have you looked at your own staff? Have you done measurements and assessments? Have you done the training to move them up through? There's a classic story where, I guess probably last year, where I was talking to a hotel person, and they had an employee that was a star employee. They were doing a brilliant job at what they were doing. They were liked by their peers. They were efficient. They were productive. They were engaged in the hotel. They were an ideal candidate to promote and move up the ladder. So they did. They moved them into a supervisory role, and they didn't provide the training they needed in that role. After about 3 or 4 months, they came back and said, I really don't want this job. I don't like it. I'm stressed out. I can't do it. And ultimately, they lost an opportunity to take that really good employee that was a star at their job and move them into a supervisory role, give them the training, and make them a star supervisor. So it really comes into the next line, which is retention, retention, retention. I would contend that if you look around your hotel and look at who's there and pick out your stars and do your assessments, then your good employees are already in existence. Provide the training, and then the retention issue becomes less because people below them can see that there's a chance to move up. The person that's there is going to stay because they're given an opportunity to grow career-wise and personal-wise. So it's a win-win situation for both employers and employees. In some cases, quite likely, and maybe the employee isn't there that you need. But in a lot of cases, the employee is there, and they just need to be nurtured and trained and turned into the kind of employee that you're looking for. There's another one sort of as well in terms of training and why should you do it. Some of the jobs that they're doing really isn't rocket science. They just need to do their job. That's true in some cases, but in a lot of cases, proper training and essential skills training will lead to innovation. It will lead to the ability of the employee to communicate with their supervisor and with their other workers, and it will lead to innovation. A lot of innovation for profit-based basis will come from bottom up as opposed to top down. And you should never ignore the ideas and the practical experience of those that are working on the front lines. Everything from documents that will make their jobs more efficient to work processes to even ideas and revenue generating ideas. They're all there, and they just need to be fostered and nurtured and listened to. And essential skills will help them do that. It helps in critical thinking. It helps in oral communication. It helps in understanding. And it also helps the employee deal with change. They become less resistant to change. They become more adaptable. So that's one of the other strong benefits of essential skills training. Just sort of wrap up today, the 20-minute session that we're in for. I wanted to thank you all for taking your time out for today to listen to me and talk about essential skills. I want to make sure that I recognize and thank sort of our partners in this, which would be TIMB, the Upskill or SRDC folks in Ottawa, province of New Brunswick for the WES and the WES support, and of course our brand, our eMerit training brand out of CTHRC. It is a good idea to look into essential skills, to study them a bit more, to see if it's for your employees. If you're out there trying to sell essential skills to employers, hang in there, be persistent, and don't get frustrated. Eventually, the timing will be right that the employer is looking for it. But you have to do your groundwork, and you have to get them engaged in what they're doing. And for the employers out there that are working on essential skills training and that are engaged in this, great. Thank you so much for doing so. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Warren. We don't seem to have any questions. Certainly, if any questions come up, please feel free to send them to me, and I will feed them through to Warren. I know he's always really happy to answer questions. Thank all of you for joining us today, and thank you very much, Warren, for coming in to present. It has been a great pleasure to be here with you today. As I said, if you have any further questions or follow-up for Warren or myself, please feel free to contact. His contact information is on the screen. You all have mine, Maureen at nb.literacy.ca, and thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.